ناتو در هماهنگی با ایالات متحده آمریکا برای موفقیت روند گفتگوهای صلح تلاش میکند. همزمان با آغاز هفتمین دور گفتگوهای صلح میان آمریکا و طالبان، ناتو متعهد است که زمان آن رسیده تا خشونت‌ها در افغانستان کاهش یابد و طالبان برای آغاز گفتگوهای بین الافغانی با جانب حکومت افغانستان حاضر شوند. اما هنوز هم طالبان حاضر به گفتگو با جانب حکومت افغانستان نیست. در همین حال ناتو و شرکایشان از تعهد برای ادامه کمک‌های مالی با نیروهای امنیتی افغانستان فراتر از سال 2020 میلادی مجددا اطمینان دادند. با باور متحدان ناتو، همکاری دوامدار مالی از نیروهای امنیتی افغانستان ادامه خواهد داشت و داشتن نیروهای پرقدرت افغانستان را به سوی صلح می‌کشاند. از این رو ناتو تا سال 2024 به حمایتش از افغانستان ادامه خواهد داد. این همه تلاش‌ها در حال صورت می‌گیرد که حکومت افغانستان مصروف برگزاری انتخابات ریاست جمهوری است. روی همین موارد گفتگوی داریم با آقای نیکولاس کی، نماینده ملکی ناتو برای افغانستان. Mr. Key, thank you so much for this opportunity. Recently, NATO partners announced that they will continue supporting Afghanistan till 2024. In which parts NATO will going to support Afghanistan?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to KHURSHID TV today. It's a great pleasure to be with you. Yes, I was in Brussels just last week and meeting Secretary General of NATO and the ambassadors of the key nations supporting the Resolute support mission here in Afghanistan. What I heard from them was very clear. There is a strong and continuing commitment from NATO to Afghanistan and to the mission in Afghanistan. And NATO's mission is to train, to advise, and to assist the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces. Why? So that they can help bring peace to Afghanistan and make sure Afghanistan is never used, its territory is never used for international terrorism in the future. That is the mission, and as you say, allies and partners have committed themselves financially to continue to support until 2024, that's another 5 years at least. And also, it's not just the financial commitment. NATO is generating its forces for next year, and at a conference last week, again, allies and partners pledged all the forces that are needed for the NATO mission for the next year as well. So NATO is here, we are strong, and we are committed.
As you mentioned, NATO partners will financially support Afghanistan, but is it clear how much is the annual budget of NATO for Afghanistan till 2024?
Afghan National Army Trust Fund, which is what the NATO Resolute Support Mission is managing for partners and donors, is worth about $500 million a year. And now that is committed fully for this year and for the next year, and with, in principle, agreement to continue until 2024.
Is NATO financial assistance is audited?
Absolutely. NATO, part of our training, advise and assist mission and part of the use of the Afghan National Army Trust Fund is to fight corruption and to help build strong institutions here in Afghanistan. And NATO takes its scrutiny and its financial management responsibilities very seriously, and the donors do as well.
Is there any mechanism how NATO will monitoring the funds, how Afghan government is use it?
Yes, because these are funds that are coming from donors from other countries, and they are very, very careful and very, very demanding about how the money is spent and making sure that there is a good accountability for that money. And you know, this is a part of the support for the Afghan security forces, but of course other countries also support directly the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces, and as we know, the United States bilaterally provides the largest amount of support for those forces.
But at all, how you see the development process in Afghanistan in mind of the international community's expenditure?
Yeah, development is vital, absolutely vital in Afghanistan. And it is true, we can see significant progress that Afghans have achieved with the help and partnership of other countries. The Afghanistan today is very different to the Afghanistan of 2001. I don't know if you were here then. I wasn't. I was here in 1996 when the Taliban arrived in Kabul. And I can see a night and day transformation between the Kabul of 1996 and the Kabul of today. Infrastructure, public services, institutions, schools, healthcare, so much better. Are they perfect? No. In some cases across the country, we know things are going backwards even. So the gains that have been made in terms of education, access to healthcare, these are fragile. And what this country needs now is peace in order to ensure the economic prosperity and the development Afghans need, which is why, for us as NATO, our main priority is to help Afghans achieve a peace settlement with the Taliban as soon as possible. We are creating the conditions for that peace by supporting your security forces to secure Afghanistan.
But recently an Australian organization broadcast a report or a survey that shows Afghanistan is the most insecurity country around the world.
Yes, I think I saw that one, and Iceland, I think, was the most peaceful country in the world. And that's, you know, that's sad and that's disappointing. And it's a reality though. I travel across Afghanistan, possibly more than you, because I have the possibility of visiting the NATO commands across the country. So I've been recently to Jalalabad, to Lashkargah, to Herat, to Kandahar, to Mazar. And it's very different, depending on where you are as well, in terms of the security. And I think we have to recognize that, you know, this country suffers from insecurity because of the terrorist threat posed by groups such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the insurgency of the Taliban as well. But it isn't everywhere and all of the time either. That said, what is the top priority for all Afghans when I meet them, whether they're young, old, whether they're government, whether they're military, whether they're civilian? What is their priority? Their priority is peace. They want a peace settlement, and they want it now, and they call upon the Taliban to respect their wishes, to respect the wishes of the Afghan people. Come to the table with the government of Afghanistan and other Afghans and resolve this conflict now.
But in this situation, recently Mr. McMaster, U.S. National Security Advisor, told to the media if U.S. and NATO forces will withdraw from Afghanistan, Afghanistan will fall.
U.S. and NATO forces are not withdrawing from Afghanistan. It would be a mistake if the Taliban think that is the case. As I say, I've come back from Brussels. I've been very clearly told and reminded by NATO allies and partners, by the Secretary General of NATO, that NATO commitment to the mission is strong and is continuing. So the Taliban also realize that the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces that NATO has been helping to train and advise are stronger every day. They are more capable. And I believe the Afghan nation should be very proud of their security forces. And we see in the last few months a huge increase in their morale and in their capability.
But why Taliban leaders always, whenever they are interviewing with the media, they are really hopeful to reach for an agreement with US to withdraw the foreign forces from Afghanistan.
There is absolute clarity that when the conditions are right, NATO and I'm sure all the international forces will be very happy to leave Afghanistan when the conditions are right, when Afghanistan no longer poses the risk of being a haven for international terrorists, when there is a lasting political peace agreement here in the country. These are the things which will enable NATO and its allies and partners to wish the Afghan people well and conclude their mission.
In the peace process, how you assess the role of Pakistan? Recently you have a trip to Pakistan and you mentioned this is the time to reduce the violence. How do you see, is there any changes on behavior of Pakistani side or strategy of Pakistan or no?
Yes, you're right. I was recently in Islamabad and had some good meetings there, and I was struck by the strong similarity in the vision of Pakistani leaders for the same vision that I hear in Kabul and in Afghanistan as well. That vision is for a whole region at peace, a whole region that is Central Asia, Afghanistan, South Asia, connected by trade and economic relations, at peace and secure. That vision, I think, is now leading everyone to the same conclusion that now is the time to end the conflict between the Taliban and the people of Afghanistan.
But you think Pakistan is committed to reduce the violence in Afghanistan?
I believe that they are committed to supporting this peace process, and I do hope that there will be a reduction in violence and an agreement in the end for a comprehensive ceasefire, but starting at least with a reduction of violence. The Afghan people are demanding that. The Taliban are fellow Afghans as well, and they should listen to their brother and sister Afghans and respect the will of the people.
On the coming week, President Ghani also will go to Pakistan and will discuss with Pakistani officials about peace process. How you see, will they reach for an agreement to start intra-Afghan peace dialogue?
I have noted and seen the reports of the intention of President Ghani to visit Pakistan, and I wish them all the best for this visit. I hope it does lead to something productive and concrete in terms of the peace process. And as I said, this fundamental foundation stone for security and prosperity in the whole region, which is a good, normal relationship between these two great countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan.
How important is this to build regional consensus?
You're absolutely right. Regional consensus is extremely important, and I know Ambassador Khalizad has been working very hard to ensure that consensus is there. He's working with Russia, he's working with China, and also Pakistan and others as well. So I believe the consensus is broadly there. It needs to be strengthened and it needs to be renewed. But most of all, what's needed is the consensus here within Afghanistan as well, and within all the political actors here in Afghanistan. And it is concerning sometimes the lack of unity that you can see here amongst the political actors. And really, disunity only favors the Taliban as you're beginning a negotiation and a peace process. So I think building that unity and consensus here is really important. There needs to be unity, there needs to be discipline, there needs to be structure to the approach, and I would encourage...
How important is the role of Russia in consensus, because they're very involved on peace process?
Russia has a long history here in Afghanistan, and it has interests as well in the broader region. And I do believe that they should be working very closely with the United States and with others now to build a united and strong front for peace. But that should be complemented by Afghans themselves being united and agreeing to speak with one voice as much as possible. Peace process is not like a karaoke night. It's not a chance for everybody who thinks that they have a voice to try singing. This is a time when the choir needs to come together and there needs to be a real unity here on the Afghan side.
But right now in Afghanistan, there is two huge issues in Afghanistan. One is peace process, another is presidential election. Especially for NATO, which one is priority? For Afghan government, election is priority, and US officials says peace process is our priority.
I can't possibly comment on anybody else other than NATO. As you say, for NATO, both are important. Both are urgent. Elections are important and urgent. The peace process is important and urgent. And we encourage everyone to follow them both. It isn't a question of having to choose between one or the other. Let us follow both. They are both important and both urgent.
But is it possible in this situation that both should go forward together?
Absolutely. Why not? The election for the president is more or less 100 days away. There is a lot of work to be done to register voters. Those who have not registered until now should really go and register so they can vote. The parties need to start preparing. 60 days before the elections, there will be campaigns. There is a lot of work to be done. Do it. Follow that track. At the same time, the peace process with the Taliban is absolutely urgent and important, and we do call upon the Taliban now to join in that process. We support fully the efforts of Ambassador Khalilzad for the United States. NATO supports him fully. We consult regularly with him. We also support now the work of the government of Germany and Ambassador Potzel. I call upon the Taliban to cooperate with these two initiatives.
What is the position of NATO? Will support NATO financially the election process?
NATO will support the practical and security aspects of the election. Our mission, as I said before, is to train, advise and assist the Afghan security forces, and we did that for the previous elections for the parliament in October last year, and again we stand ready to do that this year. But I have to say, the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces are incredibly capable of securing the elections and doing the practical work themselves. So the NATO role is just some training and advice and assistance.
But some presidential candidates warning in these days that they will boycott the election. Is this a concern for NATO?
As I say, I think for us the priority is to see good quality elections happen in September on time. And a part of a good quality election is to ensure that there are a wide range of candidates taking part. So there are currently, I think, 18 candidates registered for the presidential elections, and I would hope that there will be, on the 28th of September, a full range of candidates contesting the elections.
And if presidential candidates really boycott the presidential election, then how you will see the situation in Afghanistan?
Let us not speculate now about boycotts or no boycotts.
But they're warning.
If and when we get to that bridge, then we can cross it.
Okay, and how you see the activities of election commission? They will really committed to holding the presidential election on September or no?
Well, certainly I congratulate the Independent Electoral Commission for making a very wise decision just to focus on the presidential elections because the practical challenge of arranging provincial council elections at the same time was very, very difficult. I also congratulate them on choosing a basic technological approach to these elections and not pursuing biometric voter registration. So those are good, wise choices. I think it now makes it quite possible to have good quality elections on time in September.
But you mentioned that the election commission have a lot of work to do. There is some concerns for election partners that election commission did not do any great rule for holding presidential election.
The election commission, I think, is very much studying the lessons from last October's Walesi Jirga elections, and I think it is trying to learn those lessons. There is always a lot to do in a country such as Afghanistan, where there is challenges of insecurity, challenges of infrastructure, challenges of capacity. There's always a lot to do, and I'm not complacent, and I believe the Independent Electoral Commission is not complacent either. They will need to work night and day between now and the 28th of September to ensure the elections are successful.
For a conclusion, how you see these two huge issues, peace process and election, which one will be the success?
This summer that we are starting now in Afghanistan is absolutely a summer like no other summer, because there are these two very important processes going ahead: peace and elections. And there is also a continuing security and fighting season as well. So I'm sure the next few months are going to be quite challenging for many Afghans and for many of their foreign partners and friends. But I think in all of this, we ought to keep our eye on both the prize of democratic elections and keeping to this cycle of elections and constitution which Afghanistan has gained over the last 18 years, and the prize, eventually, of a peace settlement between the Taliban and their fellow Afghans. I believe both are possible. I don't believe one contradicts the other. And I think, and I hope, like all Afghans, that by the end of this year, we shall be able to see success on both the political and the peace track.
But do you think there will be some improvement on peace process, because the 7th round of peace talk will be start in Doha from Mr. Khalilzad's side, and both sides is very hopeful that they will be reached for an agreement?
Let us hope, indeed. I mean, as I say, the peace track is urgent and is important. We fully support Ambassador Khalilzad's efforts, and what we do call upon is the Taliban to cooperate fully. And that means for the Taliban to be ready to meet all Afghans, including the government of Afghanistan.
Thank you.